Do you have an idea of where your fashion sense started?
Yeah. Album covers, all influences around me, like in the city of Atlanta, it was kind of like a certain, it was certain, I call it like the circus, like came to town, a certain kind of buzz of things that, JOI was doing, things that Dallas Austin was doing. My homie Big Gip, he was huge influence on the whole, like a alt scene of dressing. And even Busta Rhymes doesn't get enough credit, but Busta Rhymes was really influential in that too. Funk albums, like my heroes like George Clinton and Sly and Prince and even Cameo were huge influences. And being that I draw, I drew comic book characters, it was fun for me to draw my costumes and draw the things that I wore. And it was like liberating too. Because at first, we just, wore whatever was happening at the time. And I do remember there was a point when, I think we talked about it a little bit before, but there was a point when I just started growing my hair and growing my dreads. Like we had whole Dungeon family, we went to Jamaica. And I said, like I went swimming in the ocean. And after I left swimming, I was like, man, I ain't never combing my hair ever again. Like that, I just told myself, okay, I'm not combing my hair. So I started getting these dreads. But when you first starting to grow dreads, it's kind of like a certain stage where they just don't look really cool. Mm-hmm. It's like they short and, they're not hanging yet, So I was trying to find something to cover my head up with. And so at first it was like, okay, I'll just rock this bandana to cover my head up. But then it was kind of like, at the time, Tupac was so like just everywhere, and Tupac rocked the bandana, and I didn't want to, get into that bag. And so I was like, well, let me just try something else. And one day, I don't know what made me do it, but I was just in the beauty supply store and I saw this little, a turban, but it was kind of like these real cheap turbans. They come in all kind of colors that your grandmama might wear to church. And I grabbed a couple of them and I just started rocking them, like a turban. And I used to sometimes even take fabric and wrap my hair up like rosters. And so it was all really about just trying to find a way to feel cool or look cool. And that turned into moving more into an alt style. And then, I started to see people in the street rocking turbans, so it was like, okay, this is fun. I look cool. And then at a certain point, it got to where people, like certain fans were like thrown off by, okay, you look one way and then you came this way. And it became like intriguing to me that it pissed a lot of people off. So I just kind of dug in the whole way and like just fucking with people. So, I mean, playing with androgyny, playing with wigs, and the whole comic book drawing aspect of it. Like I always wanted to look like I was from another planet. So around the ATLiens time, that's when it really started to come into play. And the white wig was about being from another planet. So I always felt like people from another planet, they were just wise or, all they had was white. And so that's where the white wig came from. But style wise, man, it was everything around me. Like all influences around me, like my whole crew, like things that were brought to the city, even Missy Elliott at times, like even Digital Underground and Humpty, like all those were influences to me. But we just tried to find a way to do it in a new way. And once I started to be able to draw and make my own clothes, that was out of here. It was fun. It was completely fun. Like, cause we felt like not of this planet. We were making music, that was otherworldly. So it's like, well, let me look like the music.
And did you look like that every day or just on stage?
Nah, at a certain point, it was like you couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like
you began to live
rock
it.
whatever in the street too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just kind of like full in.
And it just happened naturally that the transition from it started as a stage costume, and then it evolved into just like how it was.
Well, it started as like, how can I look cool in the street too? But then it progressed to, how can I make this music that we're making look cool, make it look like it's sounding, because I wanted to go other places. I started producing on our second album. ATLiens is when I started producing. And so at that point, Ray, you know, he showed me the game of how to produce. He showed me which records to buy, kind of which dates, which years, you know, which years had certain drums. And, you know, when you're sitting around and just looking at album covers and you're seeing like all these like interesting looking people and, you know, Parliament Funkadelic and Sly and them, like these were like my heroes at that point. And like I would buy videotapes and, you know, find like go down to Little 5 Points in Atlanta. It was kind of like the village of Atlanta. And I would buy like little videotapes or like bootleg performances, like when they, you know, bootleg Funkadelic performances and stuff like that. So I'm looking at it and just getting amped, like getting like, wow, this is awesome. And so I found a way to make it work for me, you know, because I was like, I felt like I was part of that lineage.
Yes.
And so me, my whole crew, we were like a ragtag, kind of like Funkadelic in a way, like, because we all came from, you know, different places. We all brought something different to the music, and it felt that way to me. And so really, we just went on in, man, and that's just how it was.
Also interesting, the connection to Parliament and the mothership connection, and they wanted to be from outer space too.
Yeah.
You know,
and even Sun Ra too.
Sun Ra too,
influence.
and I would say even like in early hip hop, Grandmaster Flash kind of had a sort of outer space.
Yeah, see, even all those were influences too. Yeah. Grandmaster, all that was like our influences. That's just, to me, it was the people that were going places, that were doing something outside of that was really interesting.
Yeah, to
me, and even like even later on when you look at like a Prototype, the video for Prototype, that was really a riff on me doing Sam Ra did a movie called Space is the Place.
I've seen it.
Yeah, and the Prototype video is basically like my version of Space is the Place, you know, coming from this other planet and me meeting this girl. But it was a love story, kind of, but the setting of coming from, you know, when they come out this spaceship and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, all those people were like crazy influences to me.
So cool.